What's up guys, we got the Xiaomi Black Shark 2 and we're going to take it apart. Special thanks to Beta Dre for getting us the phone. If you haven't done so, click on the info tab on the top right and check out his channel. Jumping right in, we're going to remove the SIM tray. Now you need to apply some heat to the front of the phone to loosen the adhesive. Then use a plastic pry tool to pry the screen off the frame. Plastic's always better since it won't damage your frame. Work your way around the phone starting from the bottom by the speaker grill. Now also note I already took this phone apart once, so it'll pry off fairly easy for me. Be gentle around the side since the border or bezel is thin, so you don't want to accidentally stick the pry tool in too far and damage the screen. Alright, once you have the screen separated from the frame, lift the screen up from the left towards the right, but be careful since the cable is still attached. Now let's remove the Phillips screw holding the cover over the connector and remove the cover. We'll disconnect the cable now. Don't pull the cable off just yet since there's adhesive underneath it holding it down, so gently pry the cable off and be careful you don't damage or tear it. Now that we have the screen off, you can see the fingerprint reader location. Under some light, you can also see through the transparent part of the screen where the reader sits into. There are 22 Phillips screws throughout the phone you need to remove. Let's unscrew them. Next, we'll remove the charger port cover. Once all the screws have been removed, it's time to remove the mid plate. So here's the mid plate. There's some thermal paste here and some down here. Here's the heat pipe right here. There's also a heat pipe here attached to the vapor chamber, which has some liquid inside it. So here's the fingerprint reader and cable for it. Here's the heat pipe fully revealed. These make contact with the copper heat spreader on this side. Here's the other one. You can see the domed out 3D vapor chamber, which contains a small amount of liquid inside. Now let me show you a closer look inside the phone. There's a whole lot of cables in this phone. It reminds me of the old HTC phones. It's just a total nightmare. Let's get started removing them. Once you remove this one, you'll get access to the battery cable underneath it. Disconnect the battery cable. Now continue disconnecting the other cables. Go ahead and disconnect the camera cables and remove the cameras. Disconnect the front-facing camera and the cable for the light sensor on top. Now pop off the white cable here and the black one here. These two cables along with the ones down here connect to the LED strip flex on either side. The microphone is removable and replaceable, which is a plus. However, it's the smallest microphone I've seen. It's time to disconnect the speaker cable. Remove the sensor on top. It's held on with some adhesive, so be careful not to tear it. Remove the two Phillips screws holding the top board down. There are more cables underneath the board, so you need to disconnect those as well. This is just a mess. I mean, are they going backwards in design or what? Pop off the cover so you can remove these cables as well. Here's the board after finally disconnecting so many wires. Once the shields are removed, you can see the thermal paste on the chips underneath. Now remove the two Phillips screws on the bottom board as well. And then remove the bottom board. Under the shield of the bottom board, you have some thermal paste here as well. It's time for the speaker assembly to come off. This has to be one of the larger speaker assemblies I've seen. I don't know if the sound travels or echoes in the space surrounding the speaker housing, or it just gives it extra bass, I'm not sure. Next, let's remove the charger port. Again, I don't see why they dragged the long cable to connect it to the top board when they could just easily connect it to the bottom one over here. There's also a gasket around the charger port. Finally, you can remove the battery. It has two pull tabs. Removing the battery requires you to disassemble the entire phone. Here's the battery. At this point, you're left with the frame itself, the vibrator motor, the cable that supplies power for the LED logo light on the back that lights up. So here's where it makes contact with the board. You also have your front-facing camera over here, your LED strips, and if you want to remove them, just peel them off. These are the LEDs underneath. And there's a white diffuser under it, and for some reason the LEDs are facing away from the frame. But when they light up the diffuser, it glows through. As far as the back panel goes, if you want to remove that, you would need to heat the back up and put some pressure from these two spots on the inside, and I'll give you some leverage to stick a pry tool in between. Now finally, after we did all this, we're going to put it back together. We'll first put the battery back in its place, and if you need to apply new adhesive, go ahead and do so. Next, put the charger port back in. Followed by the speaker assembly. Then the bottom board goes in. Screw the board back down. Go ahead and connect the white cable and the black cable onto the board in their spots. Once those are connected, connect the LED strip cables to the board. Then connect the speaker cable. Now connect this cable back to your top board. Put the cover back over it. Next, connect these two cables over here, the white and black ones. Flip the board back over and make sure no cable gets stuck underneath. Make sure your board is seated back in place and then put your two Phillips screws back in. Connect your front-facing camera cable back to the board. Now connect the white cable and the black cable. Next, connect this cable as well. Now it's time for the cameras to go back in. Reattach the cable. And then this one. Place the light sensor back on and connect it. Put the microphone back in and connect it as well. Finally, you can connect the battery cable. And then connect the other cable that goes over it. It's time for the mid plate to go back in. Make sure to put this cable through the slot in the mid frame. Pop it back in place. Put the charger port cover back over. Now screw everything back in. Once all the screws are back in, reconnect the fingerprint scanner to the board. Now take your screen and reconnect it to the cable here. Place the cover back over and screw it back in place. Apply some new adhesive around the frame and place your screen back on. I'm going to power on the phone to make sure everything works before I do. Alright, so everything seems good to go. So until next time, I'll see you guys.